Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Kamen Rider Saikou Perfect Set from the Rider Kicks figure line for Kamen Rider Saber. Pretty excited for this one, I have to say. I really like Kamen Rider Saikou X Swordman form. I think that's really neat, but I also like the shadow form, and then you kind of have the two configurations here with the leg form and the arm form, depending on where he concentrates his armor for the final attacks. So this is actually really cool. It's very similar to the Crimson Dragon set, if you saw my review for that, where you get kind of the base body that has the different ports all over, and then you can plug the armor on. It actually stays connected, unlike the hybrid set for 01, which was kind of a major disappointment. But if this is more like the Crimson Dragon set, I'm sure I'm going to be very happy with it, because I actually really liked that set. It was such a 180 from the hybrid set for 01, because that just, all the pieces fell off and they did not click into place, and it was not a good set. But then the Crimson Dragon one really impressed me, and I think this is probably going to be very similar to that. So if we take a look at the side here, you can see the X Swordman form and the shadow form down here. Take a look on this side and we get to see the lineup of all the other figures that are currently available. And there's actually more than just this, but these are a few of the ones that are available. And then on the back here you can see the shadow form, X Swordman form, and then the ability to get the arm and leg configurations, and then the two different swords that are included, it looks like. Not too much going on the bottom. Cool picture of X Swordman there on the top. So I'm excited for this one. I'm going to go ahead, get him out of the box, and we're going to take a closer look. So here he is right out of the box. He does come packaged in the X Swordman form, and he looks good. I really like him a lot. I think they did a nice job. The head is nicely detailed and painted. All of the paint here on the front looks really good. Now, unfortunately, he does suffer from that situation where the paint does stop halfway, and that's kind of a bummer. I understand they're not going to paint the actual back of the figure, and I'm completely fine with that. And obviously, a lot of this armor doesn't need to be painted around the back. But if they would have just continued to paint on for the shoulders and the forearms, that's all I really would have asked. Everything else is completely fine that it stops where it does. Well, okay, and the belt. I would have liked the belt to continue around, but just those three things. I guess technically 5, because there's 2 of each of those two. But in any case, I really would have liked that, but I get it. You know, it's cost-cutting measure, and at least it looks good from the front, which is what you need. So he does look cool. Now he comes with 2 versions of the sword. So let's go ahead and bring those in. So you have kind of your first version of the sword, which is right after he transforms into the sword itself. And this is actually really nicely painted here. They did a really good job on that. And they actually painted the entire blade as well. So I'm pretty happy with that, I have to say. Now, the second version of the sword is when the book opens the second time, which is usually what happens when he uses it to transform into X Swordman, because you hit that onto the top of the driver. And so then this flips open a second time. Now, unfortunately, you know, there's no paint here, but the blade is still nicely painted. So you can decide, you know, which one of these you want him to be displayed with. I guess technically this form should use this one. And you can go ahead and put this into his hand here. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Let me zoom out just a bit. But if you really want to use the other form of the sword, you can. If you like that one, because it has a little bit more paint. But overall, pretty cool. Articulation-wise, head is on a ball joint, so you have a nice range of motion there. You can see it actually kind of flops around a little bit, but it will keep a pose. But it can move around, rock side to side, move all the way around there. Unfortunately, because of the shoulder pads, it stops about there. That's about as high up as it can go. It can move completely around, no problem. Just the ball joint's mobility upward stops because of the shoulder pads. But then you have a bicep swivel, you have 90 degrees at the elbow, you do have a wrist swivel. He does not come with extra hands because he's got a lot of other stuff going on that we'll get to in a minute. You have that kind of diaphragm ball joint there. You do have a ball joint in the hip. Now you don't have a thigh swivel, but you kind of have that motion on the ball joint there, so it's kind of like the 2-in-1. And then you have a little over 90 degrees in the knee, and then a ball joint in the ankle. So a nice range of motion, pretty much what we're used to for our RKF figures. And overall, I think he looks good. I really like the form. I think they did a nice job recreating it. And I like the amount of articulation that we have. My only complaint is that I do wish that paint continued all the way around for the shoulder pads and the forearms and the belt. But other than that, I like this form a lot. So next up, we have to completely take all of this armor off so we can get to the other forms. So you're just going to kind of lift off the shoulder armor pieces, and you can see that there's just kind of like little pegs in there that you just kind of sandwich onto these little spots right there. So you just kind of pop that on and then take it off. For the forearms, they're going to unpeg. There's a tiny little tab inside there that pegs into that little spot right there. So we'll take all of these off. Very similar situation for the shin guards. They just have a peg there and a peg hole on the leg. These are also very similar. You can see the little clip right here, and then that just clips on there. So you just kind of pop off all of this stuff. You're going to just pop off the driver that has the X-Swordman book, and then you can actually lift off this piece here. It's kind of a softer rubber plastic than most other things. I do really worry, though, because this feels like it's only a matter of time before that snaps there if you're not too careful with it, because those are not super thick on the side there, so just be a little careful that that doesn't break off. We're going to take they include a normal version of the driver with no X-Swordman book, so that's going to get pegged on instead. And then we can unpeg the chest piece here and put all this stuff off to the side. And then for the head, this just kind of unpegs. It's a little difficult to get off because you can see that it's kind of the chin and then the back of the head, and then this piece comes off. So right here is, you know, the stuff of nightmares, the skeletal body that you have. But I think it works well. What we're going to do is they do give you a completely black head there. This is going to peg on right here, if I can get this lined up. There we go, and it snaps on pretty nicely. So there's that. And then for the most part, this is your shadow form once you change out the head and you put the right version of the driver on. You can go ahead and give him this version of the sword. It's a little easier said than done. There we go. So now you have that more painted version of the sword and just the shadow form holding it. So that's pretty cool. And of course it's going to have all the same articulation. Just basically take all the arm off. Actually, he's going to have more arm articulation because he doesn't have that giant shoulder pad. Not a ton more, but you can lift that up a little bit higher. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same there. So there are two other configurations we can do. I'm going to go ahead and remove the sword here. First up, we'll do the leg configuration. Now, technically, I think we should switch the driver. Let me consult the box real quick. Yes, we should switch the driver for these configurations. So let's bring... No, that's not it. I'm trying to look for it in this pile of pieces over here. Here we go. Here is the driver with the X-Swordman book attached. So they do give you some extra pieces here. They give you this large kind of shin piece and then a boot. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to pop this over the foot, and then you're going to peg this into the shin there. And then they give you this little kind of face piece to peg onto the front of this. And then there you go. You have the foot configuration. He's all ready to do a rider kick. I think that looks pretty good. It's nicely painted. I love the little face piece that you can clip on the front. And the reason this comes off is so you can clip it onto the arm one in a minute. But I think that's pretty cool. Really nicely done. So we're going to take this off. We're going to take these two pieces off. Come on. I said we're going to take these two pieces off. There we go. Now we're going to bring in this large arm piece. And this is actually kind of a compound piece because it's going to have a bend here for the elbow, which is actually really nice. And it kind of gives you a nice guide as to where to pop this on. So you can find the spot to peg this in, because it does peg into the forearm. So there we go. And then we take this and we peg this on here now as I pop the entire piece off. It does like to pop off pretty easily, as you can see, but I promise it will stay on once I can actually get this attached. And it's very possible I'm not getting this 100% pegged in, because once you do, there we go. I felt it snap in that time. That should stay in. And then they also give you a shoulder pad. So you're going to pop this over top, and then there you go. There is the arm configuration. So he is all ready to do the rider punch. I think it looks great in both modes. I really do. I'm glad that they included those pieces. It kind of gives you 4 distinct configurations for this figure, which is really nice. And all 4 of them look really good. I think this is a pretty great little set. They really did a good job with all 4 configurations. You have enough armor pieces to get everything done. Everything's painted very nicely. Yes, it's not perfect. I would have liked to have seen the paint go all the way around on the shoulder and forearm pieces and the belt. And I would have liked to seen a little bit of paint here on this configuration for the sword. But for the most part, they did a really nice job here. All the pieces connect, stay connected very well. All the configurations are easy to kind of transform in and out of. Nothing gets stuck. Nothing, falls off or anything like that. All the armor works exactly how it's supposed to. The only thing I worry about, this little kind of sash in the front here, because it has to have that peg in the middle, or I should say the peg hole in the middle for the driver peg. I worry about that breaking. Hopefully over time that's not going to become a problem. But other than that, like I said, I think it's a great set. I definitely recommend picking it up. All the articulation and everything you'd expect from the RKF, and they've really been crushing it this year. I've really been impressed with Rider Kicks figures for Saber. They've really, really kicked it up a notch, pun intended. But they've really done a great job, and this one's no exception. So, like the Crimson Dragon set before it, I think this set's really great. Certainly an improvement over that hybrid set from 01. So I recommend grabbing it, add it to your collection. Fun to display in any of the 4 modes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.